President Trump slamming special prosecutor Robert Mueller, calling him a conflicted prosecutor gone rogue. Just one day after Mueller's team announced Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, breached his plea deal by repeatedly lying to federal prosecutors, especially the FBI. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders addressed the comments earlier today. Listen.
Remain confident in the White House's assertion that the president was involved in no wrongdoing, was not part of any collusion. The things that have to do with Mr. Manafort, I would refer you to his attorneys to address that.
Joining me now, Republican California Congressman Darrell Issa. He sits on the House Oversight, Judiciary, and Foreign Affairs Committees. It's good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Cheryl.
Let's talk about this. I mean, we expected that we were in the final stages of the Mueller probe, and then kind of this bombshell comes out of his office yesterday about Paul Manafort. Paul Manafort accused of lying to the FBI. Does this kind of tell you that maybe Mueller's not going to end this until he hears what he wants to hear from someone?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. From Paul Manafort, he didn't hear what he wanted to hear, so now he's calling him a liar. The reality is, and I've done these sort of depositions and looked for people who we're going to grant immunity to, you take a proffer, you check the proffer, and then you grant either immunity or some sort of dispensation or an offer of it. In the case of his plea deal, Mueller had to know that he only had so much and hoped to get more. And remember, Paul Manafort is not going to prison for anything related to the Trump campaign.
Correct. So
it's very clear that he was squeezing him for information he wanted on Trump and didn't like what he got. And that does show a desperate act of a dying investigation.
Yeah, George Papadopoulos actually reported to prison for his 14-day sentence. And then you've got Associated Roger Stone that's basically now defying Mueller and saying he's not going to cop to any plea deal. So you are seeing some pushback, though. But, I wanted to ask you about the fact that, it looks like, this could be considered reputational damage to the president. We are now on the road to 2020. Do you think this is going to affect President Trump in 2 years?
No, I think the American people knew when they hired President Trump that Donald Trump was not a conventional candidate. He wouldn't be a conventional president. As a matter of fact, they knew that, at least they hoped, and it turned out he does, keep his campaign promises. And that's really what he'll be reelected on, an economy based on doing what he said he was going to do, to reinvent America, to make it great again. Certainly on trade, the battle is only halfway done with Canada and Mexico down, and South Korea.
Sure.
Out to their parliament, if you will. So, it looks like we've got 3 down and 3 or 4 or 5 more to go, including the big one, China.
Yeah, well, North Korea was something that President Obama told President Trump was crucial to his presidency. I also want to ask you, Congressman, about trade tensions with China. We're already in that region. We're talking about it. You're President Trump's nominee. You're going to head the U.S. Trade and Development Agency. The key word there, Congressman, is trade. You may be stepping into a bit of a fire storm come January, but what do you want to accomplish? What would you like to see happen, especially as we approach the G20?
We have to do exactly what I heard when I was in Brazil, exactly what I heard when I was in Africa, and exactly what I heard less than a week ago with trade ministers and the American Chamber in South Korea. We've got to once and for all make China play by the same rules the rest of the world is expected to play by. And if we can get not just an agreement, but some sort of execution, then this, if you will, war ends. Remember, this is not a war about tariffs. This is a war about unfair trade practices by the Chinese, about stealing technology, forced transfers. And in the case of South Korea, they were the victim of China deciding that because they put in protective missiles.
The deadline, though, is pretty steep here. We're already pushing into December now, and we're talking January 1st for them to jump these tariffs on the first $200 billion up to 25%, and then President Trump is already threatening another $257 billion, $267 billion. This is a very big tightrope that we're walking on right now with China.
It is, but I was in Beijing and I was at the World Economic Forum in China about a month ago. And let me tell you, what you're hearing and seeing there is companies are moving out of China. They're moving to Vietnam. They're moving to the United States. They're moving to South Korea. They're making decisions that China is no longer, with its inflation and its unfair practices, the preferred place to be. And when those decisions keep resonating with slower growth for the mainland Chinese, if you will, it's going to have a pressure. The Chinese act like they have forever, but the fact is their economy is slowing down, and they have a people
Right.
who are tired of hearing about delayed promises.
Well, we are looking forward to hearing from you in this new role. You're too young to retire, but we do want to say congratulations on the new gig. We'll be looking forward to that in January. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you so much.